The wind over Varan 9 was made of ash and static. Each gust whispered through the ruins of old research spires, carrying the memory of a war that had ended only in silence. Elias Wren pressed his respirator tighter as he crossed the scorched plain, his boots sinking into dust that had once been living earth. The scanner on his wrist blinked erratically, radiation pulses, fragments of biosignal, and something deeper, older, resonating below the surface. Somewhere in this dead zone, the last of the albino dragons was dying. They had told him the mission was simple: verify life signs, collect samples, and leave. But when he descended into the molten fissure and saw her, massive wings curled inward like folded continents, her scales cracked with pale light bleeding through, he forgot every line of protocol he had memorized. Her breath came in short, echoing gasps. Each exhalation released threads of silver mist that shimmered before fading into the toxic air. Her eyes, half closed, reflected not the fury of a beast but the exhaustion of a being who had seen too many centuries. Elias approached slowly, his medical drone hovering at his side, projecting diagnostic streams in cascading holograms. Tissue decay, terminal. Neural collapse, accelerating. The infection was rewriting her cells in fractal loops, something synthetic, self-replicating, intelligent. He recognized the signature from archived records of the Seraph Plague, the ancient bioweapon forbidden under every interspecies law. No treatment existed. Every simulation ended in death within hours. He should have called command. He should have tagged the site and retreated. But when the dragon opened one immense eye, milky and luminous, and spoke directly into his mind, his pulse froze. The voice was faint, crystalline, layered with frequencies no human ear could hear. My clutch, help them, she shifted, revealing a nest of 3 unhatched eggs, their shells veined with cracks glowing faintly from within. The plague was spreading even to her unborn. Elias felt the old ache twist in his chest, the memory of his mother's last day, the same slow collapse, the same helplessness. He had sworn never to relive that moment, but the universe had a cruel symmetry. He knelt beside her colossal form, extending a sterile link into the wound along her flank. His instruments flickered and died, the infection burned through them like static fire. Yet her blood shimmered with microscopic light, patterns that looked almost like language, repeating sequences of structure and symmetry, too precise to be random. He realized then that this was not a natural plague. It was a coded message, a weapon built to rewrite species. And it was winning. When her breathing faltered, Elias acted without thinking. He injected stabilizers meant for humans, whispering futile reassurances through the neural link. Her heartbeat steadied for an instant, then weakened again. The drone's AI protested, violation of xenomedical protocol, but he muted it with a single command. You'll live, he murmured, though even he didn't believe it. I won't let another mother die. Above them, lightning flared across the horizon, illuminating the rusted remains of orbital debris falling through the sky. Elias looked up, the reflection of fire glinting in his visor, and made a silent promise no machine could record. He would not leave her here. If the cure did not exist, he would invent it. Even if it meant breaking every law written by human hands. The facility beneath Varan 9 was a graveyard of forgotten science. Elias moved through its corridors, his steps echoing softly against metal panels warped by decades of neglect. Old banners still clung to the walls, symbols of the Interstellar Coalition's genetics division, now nothing more than ghosts of arrogance. The deeper he went, the heavier the air became, thick with sterilized dust and the faint tang of biofuel decay. Power still ran through some conduits, flickering in intervals like the heartbeat of a dying machine. He followed the signal of the cryopod dragging behind him, the one that held her, the albino dragon, Seraphine, sedated and suspended in a field of quantum frost. His conscience screamed with every step. What he carried was not cargo but a living relic, a being revered and feared by both species. To touch her biology was to invite exile, even execution. But Elias's resolve hardened with every flicker of her biometric readings. Her vitals were fading, each pulse weaker than the last. The seraph plague was eating through her tissue at an impossible rate. No known xenometic formula could even slow it. Unless he broke the rules that bound his species since the Great War. In the central chamber, the old gene cores waited, massive cylinders filled with bioluminescent liquid, connected by webs of silver cables. Elias powered them up, flooding the room with a cold blue glow. Holographic schematics rose from the floor, spinning strands of DNA intertwined with alien fractals. He linked Seraphine's samples into the system and watched the interface struggle to interpret her genome. The data expanded like a living storm, patterns looping infinitely, recursive sequences rewriting themselves as if aware of his intrusion. He realized then that dragon biology wasn't just organic, it was algorithmic. Each cell carried not just genetic memory, but intention, an active code that resisted manipulation. The Seraph plague had hijacked that code and begun to overwrite it with human-engineered sequences from the old wars. To cure it, he would need to reverse-engineer both. He would need to merge human adaptability with dragon regeneration, a synthesis that had only ever existed in theory. His gloved hands trembled as he unlocked a restricted archive buried deep in the system, Project Genesis. The files were decades old, sealed after the Coalition's last genetic tribunal. Hybrid experiments, half human, half draconic, abandoned due to unstable consciousness states. The warning screens flashed red, but Elias ignored them. He extracted the protocols and began reconfiguring the Chrysalis engine, a forbidden fusion matrix designed to weave DNA across incompatible species. The air hummed with rising energy as he inserted his own cellular imprint into the model. His blood mixed with hers inside the reactor's quantum lattice. For a moment, he saw something impossible, patterns of light converging into the shape of a dragon's eye, blinking within the data stream. The system responded as if alive, recognizing him, binding him. Then alarms blared. Energy levels spiked beyond control, light filling the chamber like a second sunrise. Elias shielded his eyes, but through the radiance, he saw Seraphine's body stir inside the cryopod. Her claws flexed. Her heart rate accelerated. And when her eyes opened, pure white, reflecting both human and alien intelligence, Elias knew there was no turning back. He had just rewritten evolution itself. When the light faded, the chamber was silent except for the soft hum of the fusion core. Elias stood trembling before the pod as vapor curled away from its surface. Seraphine's vast form shifted beneath the translucent barrier. Her wings twitching, muscles tightening with new strength. The cryoseal cracked like thin glass. A wave of warmth flooded the room, the kind of living heat that carried purpose. Then her eyes opened fully, glowing not with divine radiance but with awareness, focused, intelligent, terrifying in their calm. Elias, the voice wasn't sound. It resonated in his skull, a layered echo of his own thoughts refracted through something vast and ancient. The neural interface on his temple flickered, detecting the signal that no machine could classify. She was speaking across the link, her consciousness bleeding through the interface like sunlight through fog. He stumbled closer, every instinct torn between awe and fear. "You can understand me," he whispered, though the words were redundant. She could read him, his pulse, his panic, his guilt. Her breathing deepened, synchronizing with his own heartbeat as if testing it, matching rhythm for rhythm. The monitors spiked, her neural patterns were mimicking human structure, oscillating between alien waveforms and recognizable human cognition. "You crossed the boundary," she said, her mind voice trembling like a storm held behind glass. "You changed the code." He didn't deny it. He could still feel the faint ache in his veins from the injection, the trace of her DNA that now lived within him. The fusion process had not been one-sided. When he rewrote her genetic lattice, it had rewritten him as well. He was connected to her, not just biologically, but psychically. When she flexed her talons, he felt a ghostly ache in his own fingers. When she inhaled, his lungs tightened in rhythm. Seraphine turned her gaze to the containment glass. "I was dying," she murmured, but you made me, more. She rose slowly, her scales alive with patterns of light, shifting from ivory to silver with each breath. Along her throat, faint veins glowed, the same bioluminescent hue that ran through Elias's wrist when he held his hand up to the light. You carry my song now. The realization chilled him. The link's permanent, isn't it? Her wings folded, the air trembling. You are bound to what you awakened. Then the alarms began. Satellite scanners had detected the unregistered quantum surge from the lab. Across the planetary orbit, human surveillance arrays locked onto the signal, while deep in the mountain caverns, dragon sentinels stirred from hibernation. The fusion of two forbidden bloodlines had not gone unnoticed. Seraphine tilted her head as if hearing distant voices. They are coming, for you and for me. Elias moved to the control panel, fingers flying across the interface, encrypting the data, erasing every trace he could. But it was too late. The hybrid pulse radiating from their shared DNA was broadcasting on frequencies older than any technology, alive, calling. He looked up at her, heart hammering. Then we run. Her eyes softened, almost human now. No, she said, lowering her head to meet his gaze. We fly. With a thunderous shatter, the ceiling split open, molten debris raining down as Seraphine's newly strengthened wings unfurled. She lifted him in one massive claw, the fusion between them pulsing like a second heart. As they rose into the burning sky, lightning licked the horizon, and far above, both human and dragon forces began to converge on the same signal that would soon change the fate of two species forever. The storm swallowed them as they broke through the lower atmosphere, the roar of Seraphine's wings merging with the electric fury around them. Plasma winds rippled against her scales, scattering ribbons of white light across the night sky. Elias clung to the harness embedded between her shoulders, feeling each vibration of her muscles, each tremor of exhaustion. They had flown for hours, rising beyond the scanner's reach, but he knew it wouldn't last. Both human and dragon sensors would triangulate their hybrid signal soon, it was a beacon neither side could ignore. Seraphine angled her wings downward, diving into the canyons of the ash ridge. The cliffs glowed faintly from the molten rivers below, heat refracting through the mist. They landed in the shadow of a collapsed observatory, its dome cracked open like the skull of some ancient titan. Elias stumbled off her back, his limbs shaking from the link's resonance. He could still feel her pulse through the fusion band on his wrist, synchronized to his heartbeat with eerie precision. Every time she exhaled, the air around him shimmered faintly, as though the boundary between their bodies had thinned. You're weakening, he said, scanning her vitals through his visor. The readings flickered wildly, her temperature unstable, neural activity climbing past safe thresholds. Your biology's still adapting to the human code. She lowered her head, her breath washing over him in a mist that glowed faintly blue. So is yours, she replied. Your cells burn brighter now. You feel it, don't you? The current in your blood. He did. His vision had begun to shift hours ago, details once invisible now shone with ultraviolet clarity. The ground's vibrations whispered through his bones, his senses tuned to the planet itself. Yet with every new perception came pain, a deep static hum behind his eyes that wouldn't fade. Elias activated the portable field generator, erecting a quantum veil around their shelter. The shimmer blended them into the canyon's radiation field, hiding their biosignatures for now. If either side finds us, they'll dissect us both, he muttered. They won't find us, Seraphine said, her gaze fixed on the stars emerging through the clouds. But the song they hear, they will fear it. They will hunt what they don't understand. Her tone carried something Elias hadn't heard before, sorrow mixed with reverence. Through the neural bond, flashes of her memories invaded his mind, dragon cities suspended over glowing seas, vast minds communing through shared dreams, and finally, the wars, humans wielding flame weapons that burned the skies, dragons retaliating with storms. He staggered beneath the flood of imagery. You remember them all, he whispered. Every war. Every extinction. Memory is inheritance, she said softly. And now, it is yours too. Their shared silence was broken by a distant rumble. On the horizon, metallic glints appeared. Human drones, dozens of them, scanning the ravine with beams of pale light. At the same time, a low resonant cry rolled from beyond the mountains, dragons, vast and angry, converging. Elias's pulse quickened. They'll meet here. Seraphine's wings flexed, scattering embers into the air. Then this canyon will become the bridge, she said. Or the grave. He met her gaze, and for the first time, the fear inside him twisted into conviction. Whatever they had become, monster, miracle, or mistake, it was no longer something he could undo. The future had already begun to take shape in their blood. And as the sky above them ignited with approaching lights, Elias realized that both species would soon learn what it meant when creation refused to obey its makers. The air trembled before the first impact. Shockwaves rippled through the canyon as human drones descended like silver insects, their thrusters cutting sharp streaks through the storm. Above, dragon silhouettes moved in the clouds, massive, spectral, their roars resonating like thunder. Elias crouched beside the generator, fingers flying across the control interface, amplifying the shield frequency. The field shimmered faintly, distorting their forms into mirages, but it wouldn't hold for long. The hybrid signal pulsing between his and Seraphine's bodies was too powerful, too alive. It called to everything around them. Seraphine lifted her head, her silver eyes narrowing as energy built beneath her scales. The blue veins along her wings pulsed in rhythm with Elias's heart. They've come for their proof, she said quietly. To see what cannot be undone. He looked at her, feeling the psychic hum vibrate in his skull. Then let's show them what it means. He reached for the injector, loading the last vial of fusion serum. It glowed like liquid starlight. If they want to destroy us, they'll have to face what they created first. When the first volley struck, the canyon erupted in fire. The veil shattered, light pouring through. Drones fired plasma bursts, dragon flames countered from above. Elias saw both forces collide in a dance of annihilation. He and Seraphine stood in the center of the chaos, two silhouettes wrapped in converging energy fields. The serum burned as he injected it into his arm. His vision fractured into spectra, each particle of air alive with color, the heartbeat of the planet pulsing beneath his feet. Seraphine roared, a sound that shattered sound itself. The resonance between them deepened until he no longer knew where he ended and she began. His skin lit with silver light, veins tracing fractal patterns identical to hers. Their consciousness merged completely. His thoughts became wings, her instincts became strategy. Together they unleashed the wave, a burst of quantum resonance that rippled through metal, stone, and flesh alike. Drones dropped from the sky as their systems overloaded. Dragons faltered mid-flight, stunned not by pain but by comprehension. For the briefest instant, every living mind in the radius saw what Elias and Seraphine had become, unity, not war. A bridge, breathing. The energy collapsed into silence. Smoke curled upward, forming luminous threads that sparkled like constellations reborn. Seraphine lowered herself beside him, trembling. Elias staggered, his body half human, half shimmering construct, the boundaries fluid. It worked, he murmured, voice barely audible. They saw it. Not all will understand, she said. But now they know it can exist. Her gaze turned toward the horizon, where the last of the drones retreated, their sensors confused by data that defied physics. Elias knelt, the fusion light fading slowly from his skin. The canyon walls still glowed faintly, carved by the resonance wave into new crystalline patterns, records of what had happened here, proof that life could rewrite its own design. He met Seraphine's gaze. We've given them a choice. War or evolution. Her wings folded gently around him, the light of dawn catching on her silvered scales. And whatever they choose, she whispered, they will never again forget what they felt in that moment, the song of two hearts that became one. Above them, the storm finally broke, and for the first time in centuries, the sun touched the surface of Varan 9. The war ended not with treaties, but with silence. For weeks after the resonance event, the skies above Varan 9 remained luminous, charged with the lingering pulse of hybrid energy. Both human fleets and dragon legions hovered at the planet's edge, uncertain whether they had witnessed a weapon or a miracle. The data recorded by every sensor, every living mind, showed the same impossible truth: Elias Wren and Seraphine had become something beyond classification, a synthesis of will and biology that defied the binary order of creation. Elias awoke days later beneath the fractured observatory dome. His body no longer hurt, though it no longer felt entirely his. The fusion had stabilized. The pain was gone, replaced by a strange stillness, as if the world around him breathed in sync with his pulse. Seraphine rested beside him, her massive form reduced now, reshaped into a smaller, more graceful creature. Her eyes glowed softly, still alien, but gentler, touched by something unmistakably human. "They've stopped fighting," he said, voice quiet in the glowing ruins. The distant thunder of engines and wings had faded. In its place came the sound of rebuilding, small teams of humans and dragons landing together across the surface, wary but unarmed. The resonance wave had rewritten more than code, it had altered perception. The two species could now sense traces of one another, emotional echoes bridging thought and empathy like faint harmonics. Seraphine extended a claw toward the nest nearby. The 3 eggs had survived the battle. Their shells pulsed faintly, white and silver intertwined. "They will hatch soon," she whispered, "and the world will change again." He knelt beside them, placing a hand on the nearest egg. The surface was warm, vibrating with dual heartbeats. "They'll be the first who don't belong to war," he said. "The first to inherit both." From orbit, human officials sent encrypted transmissions requesting negotiation. The dragon elders sent visions through the ether, promising peace if the hybrid power was never used again. Elias and Seraphine gave no answer. The time of kings and councils was over, the bridge they had become would speak for itself through life, not decree. In the following cycles, hybrid spores from the resonance crystallized across the atmosphere, repairing scorched soil, purifying rivers, rebalancing oxygen. The planet healed. Cities rose again, shared this time, built from alloys that shimmered with dragon light and human precision. No one fully understood how it worked, only that it did. The universe had accepted the rewrite. Years passed quietly. Elias tended the new hatchlings beneath the silver sky, their scales soft as moonlight. They called to him in thoughts rather than words, their voices echoes of both parents. Sometimes, when the sun dipped low, Seraphine would take to the air, her wings scattering prisms through the mist. He watched her and felt the echo of her joy pulse in his own chest. He no longer wondered whether he was still human. He was something else now, something whole. And as the children of 2 once opposing worlds played in the dust of a healed planet, the last remnant of war dissolved into myth. Above the horizon, the stars shimmered with faint, rhythmic light, each pulse a heartbeat from the living bridge that had begun it all. The story of Elias and Seraphine would not end in history books or data streams. It would endure in the shared breath of 2 species learning, at last, to dream the same dream.